I believe in miracles. Sure, I believe in miracles. I believe in miracles with all of my heart, and it's the simplest thing, it's the most natural thing in the world to believe in miracles. Because I believe in Mr. and Mrs. Don Otis. It's just so delightful to be sitting here talking with you. You're more than just guests, you're friends, and that's just the way I feel about both of you. And both of you are in business. Mr. Otis, just for the sake of those who do not know you, what kind of business are you in?
Well, I own my own advertising agency, and my wife has a very successful talent agency.
I know that. Ask anyone in Hollywood about either one of you, because you're both very prominent business people in Hollywood. Everybody knows you. But you see, our telecasts are shown throughout the United States, and I just want everybody to know what wonderful people you are, and successful business people. How in the world did you ever happen to come to the shrine the very first time?
Dorothy, you tell it, because you really, it was through a friend of yours. We both read both of your books.
Oh, sure, that runs true to form. It's the woman, it's the wife.
Well, a friend of mine had told me about your services 3 years ago, Miss Kuhlman. And our first service that we attended was a year ago last January. By then we had read your books. And
where'd you get the books?
Bought the books.
I believe in miracles.
I believe in miracles and liked it so much. And then I got God Can Do It Again, and we got so much out of that. And I said to Don, you know, I really would like to go and see Miss Kuhlman at the shrine. And at that time, I felt so bad. I was quite ill, and I was working very hard in my business. And on Sunday, and I must be honest with you, on Sunday, given the option of sleeping and getting strength to carry on for the next week, or going to the shrine and standing in line for a long time, I took the easy way out for a long period of time, and I didn't go. I slept. And in January last year, we went for the first time, and we got so much out of it, and we determined that we would never, never miss a service.
Had you ever been in a service like that before?
No, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Never?
No, never. And we came away with so much. It lasted for a month. Unless someone has been, it's hard to explain.
You can't explain.
If you ask me now, that one of you have been the same since.
No, we haven't.
The beautiful part, too, when you think of standing outside and waiting for those doors to open, as we did for a long time, and then wind up 5 rows from the roof. But all of the people outside, as you wait, there's a feeling that comes over you that's completely different, and you get acquainted with people that you've never seen before in your life, and there's just a glorious, wonderful feeling even outside before you ever get inside. And we didn't mind sitting up near the roof. In fact,
no.
It was very pleasant, and, well, it was just great.
Good Presbyterians.
Yes.
Yes, we were.
And then we went back in February, and, we got so much out. And just prior to your March service, I had changed doctors, just 5 days prior to your March service, because I had been, for a period, I would say, of 10 years, been progressively going downhill, and it had been diagnosed at that time as a very severe stomach condition. I was on extremely limited diet, and I would say 3 or 4 weeks prior to the March meeting, I was on nothing but liquids. My body would take nothing but liquids, and very limited liquids. I was working all of the time. No one in the office knew I was ill, but I just was not well at all. And 5 days prior, and I really do think the Lord directed me to change doctors, because for the first time, Miss Kuhlman, x-rays were taken of my back. And the whole problem was pinpointed in my back, and this had not been done in all of the years that I'd been going to very fine specialists. And the x-rays, I had seen the x-rays. He showed them to me. He explained to me that it really was very serious, that somewhere along the line I had been in quite serious accident. Perhaps it had been at birth, perhaps later, I don't know. But my tailbone was tucked completely under. And this threw my whole spine out, so that I didn't have a normal curvature in my spine. There was, in the x-ray perhaps, there was a 3-inch variance where the tailbone should be, and where mine went straight in. And because it went straight in, then the rest of the spine went straight out. And this caused my neck to go out. So everything was out. My whole spine was a little bit to the left. It wasn't up the center of my back. It was
very painful.
Yes, it was very painful. And it was a little bit to the left. It was not up the center, and it was crooked. My pelvic bones, one of them was straight, the other one was turned almost front to back. And my right leg was over an inch shorter than my left leg. And this I found out just a week prior to your March meeting.
And you have all the x-rays?
Oh, yes, I have all the x-rays. I have the before and after x-rays, which I keep in the office because I show them to people all the time. I'm just so grateful for what the Lord has done.
Well, what happened that day?
Well, I was sitting with my husband in the balcony.
Way up in the balcony at that.
And
were you expecting something for yourself?
That's hard to answer. Early in the service, I had started to tell God all of the things that I had found out was the matter with me.
As though he didn't know.
As though he didn't know. And I said, dear God, you know everything that's the matter with me, and I don't expect you to do it all. And if you would do anything, I would just be so grateful.
A little at a time would be all right with me.
And then later in the service, you said, someone in the balcony who hasn't eaten for weeks has just been healed. And at that particular point, a feeling came over me that I want to cry every time I think of it. I had no control of my breathing. I wasn't breathing. The Lord was breathing for me. It was very deep. It was very forced. It was very fast. And I tried to control it. I tried to breathe, and I couldn't because it kept getting faster and faster. And I thought I was making a scene. I thought that it was very loud. Well,
and
obviously,
you were just sitting there?
I was just sitting there. My husband was on my left, as he is now, and an usher's wife was sitting on my right. And I sat there, and the breathing was so fast and so forced, and it stopped as fast as it started. And when it stopped, I started to sob, and I had no control over that either. And I sat there, and I just sobbed. And at that point, Don was aware that something was the matter, and he turned and looked at me and gave me his handkerchief. And I turned to take it, and he said, you turned your neck. I was not able to turn my neck when I went into the service. I had no movement in my neck. I had to turn my whole body. And he said, you turned your neck. He said, turn it the other way, and I turned it the other way. And he said, you've been healed.
All this was happening while the service was going on?
Yes, while the service was going on. You were on the stage at the shrine, and I got up with tears just running down my face to one of your very kind workers, and I said, I've been healed. And I told her about my stiff neck and about my stomach, and she said, how do you know your stomach has been healed? And I said, I just know. And she said, was there pain in your stomach when you came? And I said, no, but I could eat nothing. I've been on liquids. And I just know it's been healed. And I did, Miss Kuhlman. I just knew. I knew that
and all of this was instantaneous?
It was instantaneous. And I did not know until I got home that my lower back had been healed, because my lower back was very sore, and the soreness was still there. The muscle soreness was still there. And I didn't...
How about the lengthening of the leg?
That I didn't know until the next day.
That's why this is such a great adventure, you know?
Wonderful. It's wonderful.
The doctors don't know what to say.
I walked in. I had a 9 o'clock appointment with my doctor at 9 o'clock the next morning, which I kept. And I put one foot in his reception room, and he said to me, what's happened to you? And he saw it in my face. And I had only been to him 3 times, and I didn't know him well. And I thought, he must tell me. I want him to tell me before I tell him. And I said, and it was so hard to keep it in because I was so excited. And I said, I feel much better, and I have movement in my neck, but I would like a very thorough examination. And he said, well, you certainly look different. There's something different about you. And there was. It was the love of the Lord, which he was seeing. And so he gave me a very complete back examination, and I knew what was going through his mind.
Sure. And
he finally said, "It's as though you had a back transplant. Now what happened?" And I said, "Would you please examine my stomach?" And he examined my stomach, and he said, "If there were such a thing as a stomach transplant, you had one." Now, I'm not going to ask you again, Dorothy, what happened to you? And I said, "Do you have a minute?" And at that point, he would have had all day. And I said, "Have you heard of the Kathryn Kuhlman Miracle Services?" And he had. And I sat down and I told him everything as I'm telling you now, the sensation, everything. On the Friday before, he had said that unless I was decidedly better by Monday, we'd have to start consulting specialists because I was not responding to treatment. And I walked in and I was totally healed. I was so excited, I forgot to tell him about the leg, and he was so excited, he forgot to measure the leg. And on Tuesday, I called and I said, "You know, I took the heel lift out of my shoe." And he said, "You must never do that, because no matter what has happened to your back, that leg has been short for the length of your life, and you will do everything back that has been done for you." And I said, "If I come in, will you measure?" And he said yes. And I went in, and he measured my leg, and he measured it 3 times. And in the same tone of awe, he said, "It's the same length." And I started to cry, and I said, "I knew it was. You didn't have to measure it for me. I knew it was. I took my heel lift off when I got home Sunday night. But I knew that you didn't know, and I wanted you to know." And it was so important for me that he really know.
And you have all the x-rays?
Oh, yes.
Before and after?
And after, and then the Wednesday following, he took a complete set of x-rays at my request. And I have those x-rays. And those x-rays are, well, I'm just such a layman when it comes to x-rays, and I've shown them to so many people. And
you keep them in your office?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, and I'm sure the offices, across wonder what Dorothy Otis is doing, because very often I have x-rays up against the wall and up against the windows, and I'm pointing. And anyone who doubts miracles.
And it has done something to you spiritually.
Oh,
you
yes.
can't be the same.
You are not the same.
And then he threw Mr. Otis in for good measure.
Yes.
Was your wife healed first?
Yes, and she was almost down to the stage. And I got a very warm feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I thought, well, it's just a nice feeling because Dorothy has had this remarkable, wonderful healing. But all of a sudden, it kept moving up, and I had somewhat the same experience she did.
And it's something you can't describe, can you?
No, you really can't.
No.
And I had had emphysema for 8 years, and I knew that I no longer had emphysema. So I got up, I went down to the aisle and caught one of the workers, and she said, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "Nothing. It's already been done. The Lord just did it. All we can do is praise the Lord."
Was yours
don't.
instantaneous too?
Just boom like that.
You're not an emotional person.
No, I'm not really.
You're...
Except I was when I got down on the stage with you. I practically made an idiot of myself because I had to show everybody that I could breathe deeply and thoroughly. Remember, I took my coat and pulled it apart, and you'd be right in the middle of a sentence, and I'd walk up to the microphone and say, "Look, I can breathe."
Sure,
I never saw
I
you
didn't
before.
know you.
Oh.
I didn't have the slightest idea who you were. 8 years you had suffered from this.
That's right. And just to prove that to myself, we have a backyard that's up in the Hollywood Hills, and it's about 45-degree angle. And I have never been down there. I started going down there and working 5-6 hours at a time. No problem whatsoever. And I could take deep breaths, whereas before I had to take little short breaths. And my sinuses were always plugged up. Completely clear. I could breathe through either my mouth or my nose, however I felt like. I was healed. And I waited for 9 months before I went to the doctor, just because I felt, why bother? Except when they figured that I ought to have some kind of proof, I went to the doctor and said, "Now I want a complete, thorough examination, just as though I were going to try and get another health insurance policy. Everything, complete." So he did give me a complete examination, and then I went back a few days later to get the results. And he said, well, now, your heart is just the right size. It's just the way it should be. And this and that and the kidneys and everything. And he kept skirting around the one thing. And so finally I just very bluntly said, look, let's quit kidding each other. What about my emphysema? I don't have it anymore. And he said, well, Don, you know, there's his scientific mind simply wouldn't permit him to go that little mile. He did say, if there's an improvement of 1%, it's like a miracle. And I said, well, Doc, I had a miracle. Now, let's be honest about it. Have I got that? Would you give me that 1%? He said, I have to give you more than that. He says, at this stage of the game, your emphysema should be so bad that you would be in serious trouble.
And you'd had it for 8 years. What happened in that instant in the Shrine Auditorium?
Well, just that tremendous heat that started down in this region.
Can you describe it? And it's different than just an ordinary heat.
I can't describe it, really. It's you have to experience it. It's the same as going to one of your services. If I try to, which I always do, to try to tell people what happens, you can't tell them. They have to be there. They have to experience it and feel it. And feel that wonderful feeling of the power of God coming over the entire auditorium. And the way things work. And like you always say, I don't have anything to do with this. It's the Lord, it's the power of God, and that's it.
It's that great invisible force, that great invisible power.
I have just one question, Miss Kuhlman. I can touch you on the shoulders and nothing happens. You touch me on the shoulders and I fall on the back of my head.
I wish I could give you the answer. But if my life depended upon it, I couldn't give you the answer. There are 2 questions when I get home to glory that I'm going to ask the Lord. People ask me so many questions. I know the first 2 questions I'm going to ask him. First, I'm going to ask him why everyone is not healed. Why everyone who comes to these services is not healed as the 2 of you were healed so simply, instantly. And then I'm going to ask him the secret of that power. Why? I do not understand it. I do not understand it. If it would cost me my life, I could not give an answer to it. I only know that it's not Kathryn Kuhlman. It's nothing I have. There's nothing in my body. It's not my touch. There's nothing in myself. It's his touch. It's his power. But it's as real as the person of God himself.
That we believe.
But
you don't mind if we both love you very much because
well, you know why you love me? It's because you love the Lord.
Right.
Yes, we do love the Lord.
Did you have that same feeling, the same power, the same warmth?
Yes, mine.
It isn't always the same.
Mine was deep breathing. Mine was the Lord took over my breathing. I had no control of my breathing, and it was very fast. And it was the Lord. It was as though I had. It was not me.
And that was your first experience, both of you, with the supernatural power of God.
Yes. And to think that he could, you know, when I was sitting with my legs crossed, and to think that he could move my entire spine and turn a pelvic bone around and lengthen a leg, Miss Kuhlman, and change the whole shape of my back. I have a totally different silhouette than I had, with no feeling. It is so difficult for the human mind to comprehend the greatness of God and the goodness of God.
Go back again. What did he have to do to you in that instant?
Well, in that instant, he lengthened my leg as I was sitting with my legs crossed. My right leg was lengthened an inch. My pelvic bone, this one was turned front to back. He turned my pelvic bone around. He totally straightened my tailbone by dropping it about 3 inches, and in so doing, gave me a normal silhouette. I had always been very underslung. He gave me a very normal silhouette. He put my neck into perfect alignment and then moved my whole spine so it was going up the center of my back. and also opened up all of the vertebrae, which the doctor pointed out to me. My vertebrae were becoming closed with calcium, and he said, you were on your way to arthritis. And I didn't know this, and the Lord even cured me of this before it happened. And on the before and after x-rays, there is such a broad difference in the space of the vertebrae. They are totally different. It is as though I had a back transplant. And the Lord did this in a second with no feeling. And I'm very grateful.
I don't think we're supposed to understand, really. It's like the love of God. Who can fathom the love of God? Who can fathom the mercy and the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ? We talk about miracles. We experience miracles. If you're waiting to understand, then you'll never experience the thrill of a miracle. No man can understand the person of God. No person can understand the love of God. It wouldn't be a miracle if you and I could understand these things. It's so simple. We wish we could tell you better. The three of us would give anything in the world if we could tell it better. I feel so helpless in trying to tell you. I don't know. I'm the first to admit I do not have the answer. But I'm the first to tell you that Kathryn Kuhlman has nothing to do with these miracles. I have no healing virtue, but one thing I'll stake my life on. The power of God is real. You believe him for a